All right, welcome everybody to week 8 of the Transfer Portal CFB Gambling Podcast. I'm your host, George, joined every week by Matt and by Mike. Say hello, guys.
Hola.
How we doing?
So, like every week, we're going to go over all of our picks, go through the entire slate. We got a couple big games this week in week 8, and we're going to give you our 5 picks that we're tracking every single week, our over, our under, our favorite, our underdog, and our lock of the week. And then we're going to send you on your way with some money-making picks. So an underdog, a true underdog, plus 155 or more, and then a parlay or teaser that's at least 3 legs. So we'll give you the plus money that those are worth as well. But before we get started, this episode is brought to you by No Context CFB and by our friends at Home Field Apparel. Home Field Apparel is a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis, and they're committed to creating incredibly comfortable collegiate apparel brands for all of your favorite teams and all of your favorite vintage designs. They got a growing collection of over 150 schools and colleges to choose from, and they're adding new colleges every single week along with new designs. And if you're new to the Home Field brand, if it's your first time ordering from Home Field, check them out and use the promo code PORTAL, P-O-R-T-A-L, to get 15% off your first order. So that's promo code PORTAL, P-O-R-T-A-L, to get 15% off your first order. So the link to Home Field is in the description of this video, and also in the description of this video is where you can find us on all of the other outlets, our website, thetransferportalcfb.com, and of course Twitter. Engage with us at tportalcfb. Now, getting started, jumping into the week 8 slate. The only big news coming out, aside from obviously the 2 monster teams clashing, the Washington-Oregon game. We'll get to that shortly. But the only big news that we have coming out is JMU still ineligible for postseason play. It was struck down, I think, by someone at the NCAA struck down their second appeal. So it's the second time they've appealed in 2 seasons. And it's incredible because I think JMU has only lost 4 games or something since they've jumped up to the FBS level. Something
less,
absurd
I think.
like that.
I think they were 9-3 last year, 10-2.
Yeah, so JMU is still undefeated this season. Absolutely looking incredible as well. But just kind of like a NCAA always just on the wrong side and refusing to do what's right. We saw it with the North Carolina Devontae Walker situation, and them just, when they finally make the right decision, they're not able to even own up to what they were choosing to do in the first place. But I don't know. Hopefully, we're not really going to see JMU probably appeal this again. I think their ban ends after this year anyway. So, but I mean, JMU's an awesome football team. It's super fun to watch them. It's just really depressing that, they're not able to make the postseason. But jumping into, all of our picks from last week and some of what we had going on, let's jump over to bad beats. So, what'd you guys have? I'll start with you, Matt. What'd you have for bad beats of the week? Things that were a little bit more of a sting.
So I had Oregon +3, which is not necessarily a bad beat because it pushed, but they should have won that game. And then I had in my over it, they were at 38 points for the entirety of the fourth quarter. Since 5 minutes left in the third, they were at 38 points, so I just needed a touchdown. And they weren't scoring. I was just checking on the ESPN app randomly, and 3 minutes left, it randomly updates that whoever Buffalo was playing scored a touchdown. And I was like, oh, cool, my over hit. And I look in it and I'm like, wait, there's no score. And I go into the stream and they still have the ball and nothing's happening. So I thought they threw a pick 6 or something, but the app just randomly bugged out and gave them a touchdown, and it didn't actually happen. So not a bad beat, just annoying.
Yeah, it's still a little a mini heart attack or a mini, heart jumping and then just getting it ripped away from you. I actually had the same, your Oregon +3. That was my bad beat. My lock of the week, I was 0-6 going into this week, and now I'm 0-6-1. So I actually pushed a lock. You got to start somewhere. That's baby steps for me. But absolutely incredible game overall. But I felt very good and then very anxious, up 4 with Oregon, and they went for it on 4th down, did not get it. Michael Penix Jr., I think it took him 2 plays to get in the end zone.
2 plays.
Out of control. Drove half the field in 2 plays. And then my first thought was, okay, my worst thing I could do is push right now, which actually I shouldn't say that. Definitely could have had something crazy happen. But I was like, okay, I'm pushing right now, but way too much time on the clock for, bodacious for going for a Heisman campaign. This is a legacy drive. And he ends up bringing them all the way down the field. They go to kick a field goal and they miss it. So I think it was like a 40-yard field goal. So it was definitely a very, very makeable field goal. And they ended up missing it. Ends up being a push. So definitely heartbreaking. That's a personal heartbreak, though, because that's the first lock that I thought I had in the bag. But we'll see. We'll see. I got a good lock this week. So we'll see if we turn around. But Mike, what do you got for bad beat?
That Oregon one was a bad one for me too, because I had them money line for plus 130. But the one that stung a little worse for a little bit better odds was Rutgers and Michigan State. It was at 30 points, a couple minutes into the fourth quarter. I felt very good about under 45 at that standpoint. And then Rutgers, who has struggled to score 21 points in a game all year, scored 21 in the fourth quarter to beat Michigan State and destroyed my under. So,
yeah, no, go on that.
My parlay missed by one leg too. Just like Wisconsin. Louisville was controlling that game against Pitt in the first half. They were up 7 and then just like randomly fell apart in the second half. And no clue what happened there.
I mean, yeah, my parlay wasn't even close. I had Maryland put up a complete stinker, and then so did Kansas. I don't know. I like those teams. I see them play really well against good teams, and then just completely just a no-show against pretty bad teams. Like Illinois is a bad football team. Everyone thought they were going to be good, but bad football team. But yeah, all right. So let's get into our games of the week. So this is for week 8. We have a pretty big slate this week. We have 4 actual ranked games and a couple other good games, but let's go through the ranked games. A lot of them are, spread across different times, and we'll talk about the massive game at noon last. But first game on the docket, I'll go over to you, Matt. Tennessee is going into Alabama. This is a little bit of a revenge game for Alabama, or a lot of it a revenge game for Alabama. Having gotten upset by Tennessee last year, but Alabama's minus 8.5, and the over/under is 48.5. So, what do you think about Tennessee visiting Tuscaloosa?
I think Alabama's going to win this one. I think Tennessee's been overperforming a lot the last couple of weeks. I thought they might win both of those 2 games, but to win by the margins they did was surprising to me. So I think that this is a comeback down to earth game. Obviously, Alabama's going to be very motivated here. I don't love either of the spread or the number, just because it being at 8.5 is such a weird number that I'm staying away from it. But I think Alabama's going to win this game.
Yeah, I actually like Tennessee if they get more than a touchdown, but it just scares me because I just don't think Joe Milton's reliable at all. I think Tennessee's run game is going to do pretty well against Bama though. And I initially my gut said to go for the under, and then when I saw it under 50 points, I was like, all right, they're explosive like plays that they have in the bag. I can't possibly bet this game as an under when it's under 50. But moving over to the ACC. Number 16, Duke is visiting number 4, Florida State. This is a huge game for the ACC. Florida State's favored by 14.5. Over/under is 48.5. I think Riley Leonard's officially a game time decision. People say they think he might be back. I think if he is back, that line will swing very close to 10. But Florida State's still very good, and Duke is obviously a good football team without Riley Leonard, but they're a different football team with him. But Mike, what do you think about the ACC matchup?
This one I'm really interested in. So, like you said, Riley Leonard, the reports coming out of today, everything is optimistic and saying he could be back. He could be back. To me, it's more about the defense. Defense travels. Duke last week held NC State to 3 points. So that their defense hasn't gone away, even though they got a backup quarterback. And I know Florida State, with Travis can put up points in a hurry, but he's also incredibly inconsistent. So you're going to see this game on my board later, but I'm very interested in this game.
Yeah, I'm super interested in this game. I just personally also like, the transfer portal. We did a piece on Riley Leonard, interviewed him, so we're huge fans of his. I really hope he comes back because I want to see this game be closer than Duke's back up and a 14.5 point spread. I think that with Riley Leonard at full strength, this game would be way closer to a touchdown or less game, but we'll see what it moves to eventually. Moving over to the West Coast, Pac-12. This is also a revenge game, I guess, because Utah is visiting USC, number 14 Utah at number 18 USC. USC is favored by a touchdown, so they're favored by 7. Over/under is 54.5. This is the night game, or it's 8 p.m. game on the East Coast. But Matt, what do you think about the Pac-12 matchup that we got?
I think this is a weird spread, just given how USC has performed against Utah just for the last 2 or 3 years, even. Like Utah's had their number for a while now. I think USC is a better team. I agree with that. That's mostly just because of Utah's inability to score points this year. But as we've seen, the best thing for its offense that can't score points is to face USC's defense. It's a great remedy for that. So I think the spread's a little high here. I do think USC wins, but I think Utah might cover this. I think this might stay close.
Yeah, I mean Cam Rising's still out, so that everyone's kind of just thinking that Utah was, just a little bit leaning on teams, but I just don't trust USC's defense obviously at all, and they've let very bad football teams keep up with them, and I can't tell if it's just maybe it's just Caleb Williams just being trying to pump his Heisman stats up or something, but they're really letting teams stay in, and Utah's not a team that you want to let stay in this game, so. I don't know. We'll see. I actually have this on my board later, so we'll see. What I have on here. But let's move over to the big noon kickoff. So hate that this game's at noon, but this is going to be the game of the weekend, and very much have championship playoff expectations. I'm going to go to both of you, but I'm going to start with you, Matt, because I know Mike has a lot to say about this game. But this is number 7 Penn State visiting number 3 Ohio State in the shoe. Ohio State's -4.5. So what do you think about this game, Matt? And then I'll go over to you, Mike.
I would have loved to see the spread up if this game was at Penn State, because I gotta wonder how much home field advantage is on the spread, because I think Penn State's the better team. Just overall, I bet Ohio State's offense has too many question marks for me to consider them a better team. That I think Penn State should win this game. And I think on a neutral side, I think they'd be a favorite, because I think this is probably 5 or 6 points on the spread that they're getting from being at home. But I think Penn State wins this game. They're on my card later, but I'm hoping they win this game. I really like Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, this game is going to be incredible. I think Penn State's been great, but I think Ohio State, as of now, kind of has maybe the better resume. But Penn State's been a covering machine, and you can't ask them to really do any more than they have. But Mike, give me some thoughts, man. These are your boys going to visit the shoe.
Ohio State definitely has the better resume. But to Matt's point, like, I've been listening to podcasts all week on this. The 247 guys bring in the Bucknuts guys from and do a crossover. And they've even said, like, when you compare the team squads together, the only true unit on Ohio State that's clearly better than Penn State is the wide receivers. That's it. Penn State either has the upper hand or it's a debate on every other position unit. So Penn State hasn't matched up this well against Ohio State in the last 10 years. And in the last 10 years, aside from 2 specific years, Penn State has been winning in the fourth quarter or it has gone into overtime. So this team is built to play from ahead. So I think if Penn State gets ahead, I think this game's over. If they get up by 2 scores.
I mean, if they get up by 2 scores, that's a different game than anyone really expected. But I think this game is going to be a little bit of a rock fight. When I first saw this, I was like, all right, it's kind of strength on strength with like the wide receiving core of Ohio State, and Penn State has a great defense. They smother teams. They have good corners. And I mean, yeah, like the run game and Ohio State's defense is great too. And then when I saw it was 45.5, I was like, all right, I can't touch 45.5 because they do have explosive players. So,
but no, started at 48.5. It went down 3 points, and the 4.5 is down to 4 on DraftKings. So I think
it's moving down.
You know where the money is going to Penn State and under, which scares me a little bit, but that's the way they would win anyway. Is less points being scored.
Yeah, if they get up, like you said, 2 scores, even if they get up by 1 score, they're just going to lean on them and try and just run the ball and push with their offensive line. So I know Ohio State, one of their strengths is the defensive line, but they tend to overcommit to things. And, I don't know, like Michigan found a way to run on them fairly well last year. They had a couple of fluke plays when they were at Penn State last year. But yeah, the game's going to be incredible. I'm super excited about it. But yeah, you'll see that on the card a little bit later on as we go through. But reviewing last week, so reviewing week 7. Like I said, I pushed my lock, which is a big step for me. But I was 3-1-1, so 3-1-1, leading the way. Mike was 3-2, also losing your lock though. Unfortunately, I think you had Kentucky, and then Matt 2-2-1. You won your lock, but you also pushed because you had your underdog was Oregon. So pretty okay all around. Everyone kind of kept pace a little bit, but we're trying to move a little bit back up towards even. And we got some actual standings and unit math coming out this week. So Mike was good enough to build out our gambling sheet, and we're going to put out a tweet with all the unit math and everything, and where we stand for the season. But as of now, the standings, Mike's in first place with a 17-18 record. He's 5-2 on locks. Matt's in second place, 15-19-1. With 6-1 on locks, and I'm in third place because our tiebreaker is the locks. I'm 15-19-1, and I'm 0-6-1 on locks. So looking to make that 1-6-1 this week. But let's move on to our actual week 8 official picks. So, like I said, we're going to do same picks we do every week that we track our over, under, our favorite underdog, and our lock of the week. And then we're going to give you some plus money for upsets and then parlays and teasers. But starting with our overs, I'm going to go over to you, Matt, first. Who is your favorite over of this Saturday, week 8?
I went with a kind of under the radar game for an over because I don't know if people know this, but so the North Texas basketball team, they are an under machine. North Texas does not score points in basketball. Like every game, they're like Virginia. The under's like under 120. Their football team this year has been the exact opposite. They've been in a shootout basically every single week. They've allowed a lot of points to bad. They allowed 46 to FIU, 31 to Adelaide Christian. Like they've allowed a lot of points to bad teams, and I expect them to do it again this year this week because Tulane isn't really an explosive offense, but they're a very consistent offense. Like Michael Pratt is going to throw the ball accurately, he's going to move the ball down the field, and their run game has been good this year. So I think this is going to be a bit of a back and forth game because Tulane's defense also hasn't been exceptional, and they've been really weak against the pass, which is where North Texas wants to throw the ball. So it is a pretty big number, 62.5, and I do think Tulane's going to win this game pretty easily, but I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game.
Yeah, what's the actual spread on this game? Because I thought Tulane was favored by
20.
a bit here.
20.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it is a lot. I was just curious if North Texas could put up points like that, but I mean, I did not expect you to pull out a basketball comparison there, but yeah, so no, I do like that. I did not know that, but I kind of was assuming Tulane would run away with this. But if North Texas stays in it and Tulane can keep pace, then I mean that could go way over. My lock of the week also, or not lock of the week, my over of the week also a little bit high, but I have South Carolina and Missouri over 60. I absolutely love this over. I think Missouri is a little bit of a wagon on offense, and South Carolina, the wheels are coming off a little bit. And they haven't been able to, recreate what they had down the stretch last year. And, kind of the beginning of this year, they sputtered a little, but they've still been able to put up points, and Spencer Rattler is still playing fantastic. So I think Spencer Rattler is not really going to turn the ball over, and he's probably going to be playing from behind because, I mean, Brady Cook at quarterback for Missouri is, he's been incredible. Missouri's offense has been awesome. He's thrown over to Luther Burton out wide for Missouri, and I mean I think they're going to be up by 2 scores almost immediately, and then South Carolina's going to let Spencer Rattler loose and just let him throw the ball over the yard. So if he doesn't turn the ball over and Missouri keeps on the pressure, I think this game could go well over 60. Mike, who do you got for your over?
I got Army at LSU, another high one, over 58. I think people are reacting too quickly to that Army and Troy game from last week where it was 18-0 shutout or whatever the final score was there. The more important piece here is Army's defense is bad. Their offense is not. So that the fact that Troy shut them out should be, commended and impressive. This is not your, like we said, slightly older brother's Army offense a couple weeks ago. But LSU, now Jaden Daniels is one of the Heisman frontrunners. So they're going to be looking to pad stats, put points on the board. Their margin of error for doing anything crazy this year is gone, all but gone from a college football playoff standpoint. They could probably make the SEC championship if they run the table, but so they're going to be looking for that Heisman type of work. So I really, really like this over 58. I think LSU could score 58.
I absolutely love this over 58. I was actually going to take this before I saw that you already had taken it, and I wasn't 100% going to make it my lock. I probably would have jinxed it if I did anyway, but no, I do love this. I think aside from the Heisman and Jane Daniels trying to put up some stats, I think LSU, like you said, their margin for error is basically zero. They're 5-2, but they're still ranked, and they're still ranked in the top 20. So them being ranked gives them an actual shot. And if they have run the table, and who knows if they go win the SEC championship, maybe they do have an outside shot, or who knows what could happen. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of teams having one or two losses down the stretch. So, but I do think Army's going to put up some points, and I think LSU is going to absolutely try to run up the score. So I can see LSU put up 60, but also I could see this being like a 35-28 game or something like that.
Yeah, LSU is going to allow Army to score. Their defense has been pretty bad. They can't stop anyone so far.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I do love this pick. But moving over to our under, I'll give mine first, and mine is another Service Academy pick, but this is the under, and this is Air Force at Navy, under 34.5. So this is an extremely low number, but also this is a number that I think with a Service Academy game is very, very achievable in terms of hitting this. I think Air Force and Navy have played super ugly games in the past. I think Air Force kept this within, or Navy kept this within one score, and it was like a 13-10 type game, like last year or the year before. But Air Force just lost their quarterback, so people have been looking at Air Force as kind of like a Cinderella story of, now they're ranked, they're undefeated, they're 6-0. Like everybody loves starting to cheer for Air Force, and they can actually, hit some deep plays and, do things that aren't necessarily like Air Force traditional. But with their quarterback out, they're going to be running the triple option. Navy's secondary is terrible, but their backup quarterback has only thrown one pass, his entire career, I think. So it's going to be a run-heavy game. I don't really think Navy scores much at all. I think Air Force takes a lot of pride in this, and they're going to shut Navy down mostly. But I really do think this is going to be like, at most like a 24-7 game or something like that. But I could see this being, both teams in the teens also. But Air Force at Navy under 34.5. Mike, what do you think about that, and what do you got for your under?
I'd like that. The Service Academy games are always lower scoring than we think they're going to be.
Always.
So even though it's a low number, I'm always for betting in Service Academy games unders. I have Clemson at Miami under 48.5. I know that seems like a low number based on their totals from what they've had so far this year. But Clemson still has a lot of dudes, and their defense. Again, I always go with defense travel. So Miami is kind of reeling right now. They were on a high and then got their throats ripped out against Georgia Tech, and then got stomped last week by North Carolina. I think that's going to continue. I think that that locker room is lost, and I don't think Clemson's offense is good enough to put a bunch of points up against Miami.
Yeah, I think Clemson's not the Clemson that we all thought they would be. I thought Kate Klubnik would be a lot better. Yeah, but Miami's in basically a complete slide right now. So I see this more as like an anti-Miami than a huge knock against Clemson. But I do think Clemson pulls it out. And I think the under is a pretty safe bet, because I can't see Miami putting up too many points. But what do you think about that, Matt? And who do you got for your under of the week?
Yeah, I like that. Miami's offense had been overperforming a bit in the first 5 or so weeks, and then they've kind of been showing their more truer colors. They did score 31 last week against North Carolina, but that's just partly because they were down so much and just kept on throwing, and North Carolina was fine playing a shootout game. I really like the Service Academy under. There was one a few years ago. There's like 29.5 in Army and Navy, and they scored 21 in the first quarter and somehow still hit the under.
It's one of those, when we eventually get to whatever week 13 or something, the death taxes, the under the Army Navy football game is what we got to take.
Yeah, it's like it has a ridiculous hit rate the last few years. Somehow that is not the lowest under on the card this week because Iowa exists.
Yeah.
I went
31 or whatever.
31.5.
I went with Penn State at Ohio State. I think this one already has moved down to 45.5, but I bet it at 46.5 yesterday, so I'm sticking with that as my number. But I think this game's gonna look a lot like the Notre Dame Ohio State game a few weeks ago. It's gonna be a bit of a rock fight. Ohio State's offense still has too many question marks at QB for me to consider them like a good enough offense to be able to move the ball consistently against this Penn State secondary, which is one of the better secondaries in the country. And then the D line's still good. Chop Robinson's a dog, so like I don't think the run game will gash them by any means. And Penn State seemed perfectly content with letting Drew Aller throw the ball underneath, move the chains, and then pound the rock with Singleton and Katron. So I don't expect this game to get too much a blowout in either way. I'd be shocked if this game's like outside of 10 points on the spread. So I think it's going to stay under 46. I think it's going to be around 40, like a 20-17 game.
Yeah, I think this game's gonna be close. I think the true line is basically going to be 3.5, and that's going to be, it's going to be like either a bad beat or it's like the non Pac-12 version of Washington and Oregon, where they're just like evenly matched, going right back and forth. But I think it's just going to be back and forth punting and running the ball.
Yeah.
All right, let's move over to our favorite of the week. I'll bounce back to you, Mike. Who do you got for your favorite giving points this week? Favorite of the week.
I got Wisconsin -2.5 at Illinois. Wisconsin got dog walked last week by Iowa. Iowa is a very, very, very good defense. Illinois is not. So they have two really good defensive players, but they're not a very, very good defense. So I think this is a little bit recency bias. With Illinois taking down Maryland after Maryland showed real well against Ohio State. So I think people are thinking that Illinois is a better football team than they are, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this line grow immensely. But it being under a field goal, I love this 2.5 line.
Yeah, I like this line a lot. I actually like this too when I first saw you put in your picks, but I'm still a little bit salty because I thought Illinois would be better than they are. And then Wisconsin has underperformed based on what I thought. And I think they lost like my first or second lock that I had. So I'm still a little bitter about Wisconsin. I had them, I had them representing the Big Ten West in the Big 12, or excuse me, the Big Ten championship game. But yeah, no, we'll see. Let's see if Tanner Mordecai actually, does what he's supposed to do, and Wisconsin's able to score a little bit. But I do think Illinois is a bad football team. I'll give my favorite. So favorite giving points. I have USC -7 versus Utah. I know we talked a little bit about this earlier. It has like a really odd feel to it because Utah is ranked higher. It is in USC, but Utah kind of has had their number last year, and I can't tell if it's a full Cameron Rising or if it's just Utah that has their number. But I think after last week, they got embarrassed. USC got embarrassed by Notre Dame, and Caleb Williams, I think, threw 3 interceptions, and that's not something that Caleb Williams normally does. I think he's going to come back really, really motivated, and especially having a bad taste in his mouth from Utah essentially knocking them out of the playoffs last year. This is like a multiple week revenge game. Everything kind of combining for Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams. So I think USC is going to put up 1 billion points. I do not think they're going to let up their foot off the gas. Or actually, I shouldn't say it. I think they're going to try to put up 1 billion points and not let their foot off the gas. I think USC or Utah's defense is pretty good, but I could see USC still scoring 40 and covering by a touchdown. What do you think, Matt?
I like that. The big thing for USC's defense is while they do suck, the two people that have killed them in this matchup the last 2 years aren't going to be in this game, and that's Rising and Dalton Kincaid. Like Dalton Kincaid, I think had like 300 yards total against them last year. He just destroyed
they couldn't
them.
Do anything.
Yeah, they just destroyed them through the middle. So he's gone. So that's a big help for their defense. So I like that. I have a UNC. It's the biggest spread I've probably bet on all year. It's 23.5 against Virginia. But Virginia is just an awful team. They got their first win last 2 weeks ago, technically, but they had a bye week last week against the FCS team, William and Mary. So big win. Congrats, Virginia. But just a bit of a gap in competition level here. This is as much as I think Virginia's awful as I think North Carolina's a dog team with Devontae Walker in the fold. That makes their offense so much scarier than it was even even though it was performing well previously, it makes them so much scarier. He was doing whatever he wanted against that Miami secondary. And then the big issue with North Carolina's defense so far, which has like allowed teams back into games, is they've been getting gashed with the run, and that's just not going to happen against Virginia. They don't have much of a run game to speak of. So I think this is a game where North Carolina is going to try to show out to prove that they should be in CFP talks, because they are still undefeated. They are one of the best teams in the country, and I think this is their kind of time to prove that they should be in those conversations.
Yeah, if you're one of the best teams in the country, you just dog walk Virginia, and you definitely cover the spread. So, and I think Drake May, I don't want to say he didn't have a bad start to the season, but he wasn't, everyone kind of hyped him up in the offseason, and he's absolutely rounded back into form. And then you sprinkle in, like you said, Devontae Walker is just, now he's got another full week of game reps under his belt. He's finally actually back this season. So I think this is a really, really good pick. The line is pretty high, but like you said, I think they're going to try and show off or show out to, get themselves into the conversation. But all right, let's move over to our underdog. I'll go over right back to you, Matt. Who do you have for your underdog getting points this week?
I have one game and two different picks this week. I have Penn State plus 4.5. Like I said, I think this game is probably a field goal game when it comes down to the end. So I think even if Penn State loses this game, they only lose by 3 or 4. I'd be shocked if they lose by 4.5. I think they win this game still. I think they're the better team. Like Mike said, if you go group by group, I would agree the only position they have a clear disadvantage in is wide receiver. I think Aller's a better quarterback. They have the two best. They have the best running back duo in the country. Their room is the best running back room in the country, and then their secondary is elite. So I think if you go top to bottom, they are a better roster, and it's just kind of getting over that hump that has been there the last couple of years that's kind of haunted them a little bit. And I think this is the year they're gonna kind of put their foot in the ground and make a stand.
Yeah, it worries me a little bit that it's at the shoe, but yeah, I think this is a field goal game too. 4.5 is a lot, because even if that's Ohio State being down by 3 and then scoring a touchdown, that's still only 4. So 4.5 is just a lot of points for this game, which, I mean, Penn State plays Ohio State tough every single year. But Mike, who do you got for your underdog getting points this week?
Just to kind of more on Matt's game, the reason I think I like that line so much is because Penn State's going to win in the trenches. Like every single matchup that's happened in the past, like the people that have haunted Penn State's dreams are the Bosa brothers, Chase Young, Sam, what the heck's his name? He plays for Cincinnati Bengals now. Hubbard, JT Tuamalo last year. But Penn State has better tackles this year. Like that, their 2 starting tackles for this year didn't play in the game last year, and one of them is a top 5 draft pick. So like this game just it feels. I know I'm getting myself hyped up to get hurt.
Drink the Kool-Aid, Mike. Drink the Kool-Aid.
Right? It just feels like, from a football standpoint, it feels right for Penn State. I got like I talked about before, I got Duke plus 14.5 at FSU. So if Riley plays, I think that, like you said, this line is going to go way down. But I'm banking on defense traveling. So even if FSU beats them, I don't see them beaten by more than 2 touchdowns. I don't think anybody scored more than, I think it was 25 on Duke all year. So like I said, FSU's offense with Travis is inconsistent. I mean, Keon Coleman's fantastic, but their defense has been inconsistent. Like they should have lost to Boston College. I could see Duke keeping this one close into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and 14.5, like you getting 2 full touchdowns is a little bit wild to me, even without Riley Leonard. And Jordan Travis, he's not. Everyone was hyping him up preseason to be a Heisman contender, and he's just way too inconsistent and like a little bit loose with the ball. So, I do think this is a pretty good pick. And then to bounce back towards Matt's pick of Penn State plus 4.5. Yeah, no, I think, I mean, this is definitely going to be a trench game, and I think. Yeah, I just can't imagine that this game, has multiple scores in a row from either side. So I do like that pick. I think 4.5 is way too much of a line. So we'll see. But my underdog getting points this week is I flirted with having this as my lock of the week. But UCF plus 19 at Oklahoma. I absolutely love this pick. I know Oklahoma's coming off a bye week. but they had a huge emotional win against Texas, which was very sad for me. But a huge upset against Texas, and UCF is getting John Reese Plumlee back for, I think he was out for an entire month, and having him off a bye week. And so Gus Malzahn off a bye week, and John Rice Plumlee coming back from an entire month and basically being 100%. I think Oklahoma hasn't seen a quarterback that's been dual threat all year. They haven't seen someone that could run like that. And Gus Malzahn's going to get super, super creative. And I think he covers, 70, 80% of his spreads when he has like over a week to prepare for a team. So this is kind of Gus Malzahn like trying to prove that he can at least hang with the big boys. I don't think they hang with Oklahoma, but I could see, Oklahoma, going up, 10, and then UCF getting a little bit of a surprise, jump on them right before half, and then Oklahoma just winning by a touchdown, maybe two, and just UCF covering easily plus 19. So love this pick, but UCF at Oklahoma plus 19.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised as well. This is a bit of a come down week for Oklahoma. Like, they're off a super high right now. Like, yes, it's been 2 weeks since then, but that's still that was their biggest game of the season, pretty much, unless they make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think the bye week was a good thing for them, because I think if this was a bye week for UCF and was right after Texas for Oklahoma, I would hammer this line. But Oklahoma actually having like a week to breathe and enjoy, the Texas win. And I mean, Mike, hearing you talk about the Penn State and getting hyped up and doing all the matchups and every side of the ball and everything, I just want to clip in like us having the same conversation and me about Texas and like hyping up every single position by position, and then I'm like, making it that's my pick of the week and everything, and I made it my lock and put all my cards or all my chips to the middle. But I don't know, we'll see. Hope it goes better for you. So
I think the difference is I told you that Texas could lose that game, and they did. I think to Matt's point from before, he's spot on. Drew Aller's going to be fine thinking and dunking. They've had dozens of 10-play drives this year, which is not normal for Penn State's offense, but they've been content doing that.
Yeah, and if you remember last year, like it was a bunch of freak things happened. Like it was like an odd pick six, and was there a punt block or something? Like there was a bunch of crazy stuff going on at the end. I know, like it was like Ohio State went up a touchdown, and then like that happened, so the game looked like it was out of hand, but it was a game in the fourth quarter. Like it was actually very close. So, but yeah, no, Penn State always plays them tough, but we'll see. But all right, so let's move on to our locks of the week. I'll give mine first because still haven't gotten in the win column here. My Oregon +3 last week was a push. I already talked about that, but moving in the right direction at least. But my lock of the week, I'm double dipping on the game. Missouri -7 versus South Carolina. I absolutely love this pick. I love Missouri. I love Missouri's offense. I already have this as an over 60, and I think this is over 60 because both teams completely, run up the scoreboard. But I think South Carolina just doesn't have the gas to keep up with Missouri. I think South Carolina's defense has fallen apart. They've kind of, the wheels have come off a little bit in the past few weeks. I think their last five, I think they lost 3 of their last 4. I know one was to Georgia, but Tennessee and Florida, not really good football teams, and losing to Graham Mertz at home. I mean, close game, but I just don't think you're facing the same caliber of quarterback with Bradley Cook. So I think Missouri has played pretty impressive. They showed up against Kentucky. They were definitely, favored, and they looked really good, but they, put them away, and they actually did what they were supposed to do. So I think other than, dropping one to LSU, they've looked awesome this year. And LSU, that was kind of not a fluke win, but LSU is a little bit of a yo-yo team. So I love Missouri -7. I think this game is going to go probably into the 70s, but I think Missouri covers by, definitely over a touchdown. What do you guys think? I'll move over to you, Matt, and then Mike after that.
Yeah, I like that pick because like the biggest weakness on the South Carolina team all year has been that O-line, and Missouri's D-line is good. I think they're averaging like 3 or 4 sacks a game. And I think that number will probably go up after this game. Like we saw teams get like 7 and 8 sacks against South Carolina. That O-line just cannot protect Rattler, which sucks because he's playing fantastic otherwise. But I went with I flipped back and forth between a couple games here, but I ended up deciding on Buffalo -6.5 at Kent State. And this is more about Kent State than it is Buffalo. Like I've said a couple times, Buffalo's been my pick to win the MAC, and I don't think they're going to do it. That they've just been a little too inconsistent overall this year. But Kent State, like they have a win, but I think they're the worst FBS team in the country. They went through more loss than any team can imagine. They lost their head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, their quarterback, starting running back, 2 starting wide receivers, like 4 people on the O line, like most of it to the transfer portal. They returned like 3 starters from last year, and 2 of them are linebackers. So like this team just got ravaged by the transfer portal in the worst way we've seen really since it's been involved. And I just don't think they have anywhere near what it takes to hang with Buffalo. So getting this under a touchdown, it's -6.5. I think is crazy value.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. That's more than I thought Kent State lost. I forgot that they lost all that, but yeah, no, I think that's definitely really good value. Mike, what do you think, and who do you got for your lock of the week?
I like both of yours. My only concern would be if Spencer Rattler goes off. Like that'd be the only concern, but I don't see that happening, especially at Missouri. I'm a Buffalo guy. They won me some money this year, so I will never not go with them, especially against the worst FBS team in the. Thanks
Bad
for that,
football
Matt.
team, man.
Yeah, not a good football.
Not
team.
a good football team.
I'm double dipping on Clemson. So I'm going Clemson -3 at Miami. Like you said before, this has more to do with Miami than it does about Clemson. I do think Clemson is finding a bit of an identity, running the football and playing defense. Like you said, Klubnik is not who we thought he was coming out of high school yet. I'm not going to close the book on him after half a season, but their defense, like I said, athletes all over the place, and run the football and hold Miami down, and they'll win by a field goal for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that. As soon as I we're putting our picks together, I saw you had that and double dip on that game, and I absolutely love that. I think they're just going to suffocate Miami, and Miami's not really going to put up anything. So Clemson scoring like 20 points in this game, I think that makes it a lock anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so those are our locks of the week. So those are our 5 picks. We're doing the over/under, favorite underdog, and lock of the week. We're tracking those all season long. And we got a couple other picks here. So we got our upsets and our teasers and parlays of the week. So our upset is going to be a play that's +130 and up. So that's normally a little bit more than +2.5 points. So think like a field goal or greater. I'll go first with mine. Mine's a little bit of a stretch here. I kind of was just, looking through, and I didn't really love anything I saw, but the only game that really caught my eye as a potential big money upset would be Tennessee and Alabama. So Tennessee is +275. I think it's 8.5 that we said before is the actual spread. And I do like Tennessee in the points a lot, but I just think, for this amount of money, I think Tennessee's going to keep this game close. Joe Milton's been super inconsistent, but Tennessee has a better running game than Alabama does. And Alabama's, all of their defensive line has not looked that good. They do have weapons everywhere, but Milroe just hasn't really looked, the part. He's done okay. People are trying to, like buy back into him and say he's like growing as a quarterback and stuff, but I don't really see Alabama being able to put a team away. And I think Tennessee makes this, a game. And if Tennessee comes out and, kicks them in the face and takes the lead early, I think Alabama might start scrambling. I know this game's in Tuscaloosa. I was actually at the game last year at the upset and stormed the field. It was awesome. I do not think they're even close to the Alabama team that they were last year. And Tennessee is a lot closer to the team that they were. So this having +275 just, screams like it could be, a big money upset for, just sprinkling half unit or so on this. But what do you got, Mike? And then we'll move over to Matt.
All right, I don't hate that pick. It's obviously a pretty big underdog. Tennessee's got to be able to run the football to win that game. And they can, but they got to be able to. Mine, I'm going with Penn State +164. I think that value is way too good. Very, very similar to Oregon last week, again, who should have won at +130 when I thought it should have been a pick. feel the same way about this game. I think it's going to be one in the trenches. And I think Penn State's more talented. I don't know. I don't want to necessarily say more talented, but more productive on both the offensive and defensive line. With Chop Robinson, Adisa Isaac. Remember the bookends at the tackle positions. They're a lot better than Ohio State at those positions.
Yeah, and plus 164 is great value. This really should be very close to a pick'em game. I'm still shocked that this is 4.5. So get in while you can 4.5. And if you like Penn State, there's no harm in sprinkling some money on Penn State money line. But yeah, we've obviously talked about the game a lot, but love that pick. But Matt, what do you think about those? And then what do you got for your upset of the week?
Love the Penn State pick. That was 100% going to be my pick until I saw you had it. I think the Tennessee one's going to be a sweaty. I think if Tennessee wins this game, it's going to be a comeback win because Alabama's offense at the end of games has really slowed down. Like there was a story about it earlier. Like the way they train their O-line, they train them just to be big, and they run out of stamina a lot at the end of the games. Like you'll see a lot of their O-linemen cramping at the end of games. So I think if Tennessee wins this game, it's going to be a late comeback. So it's going to be an exciting one for you. I had to go with a second choice, which I didn't love much of since Mike took Penn State. I went with Boston College at plus 170 against Georgia Tech. Boston College has been competitive in games this year. They probably should have beat Florida State early in the year, and they've been 3-3, and I think they've covered in 4 or 5 of their 6 games so far. So they've been competitive, and I think Georgia Tech is getting a bit of an overreaction here based on their win against Miami, which shouldn't have been a win against Miami. So I think Boston College has a chance to hang tough here. I think this should be closer to a pick'em than it is, and I think being at Georgia Tech is probably why it's the only reason it's as big of a spread as it is.
Yeah, no, I like that too. And I mean, I think Georgia Tech is still, coming a little bit down from their miracle against Miami's, and Georgia Tech's not really a good football team either. So I do like that value at plus 170. All right, so upset picks of the week, and then we'll move on to our parlays or teaser of the week. So again, this is a 3-leg parlay or teaser, and then we'll give you the plus money after that. And both of these are going to be on our graphic that we're putting out. We're putting out all 5 of our picks, and then we'll put out the upset and the parlay or teaser with the plus money next to it as well. So I'll go with mine first. Mine's really simple. I think you guys are laughing because you just saw me edit it real quick because I was making an adjustment on the fly when I heard Mac sell me on his lock. But my parlay is quite literally a lock or a parlay of all 3 of our locks of the week. And I did this not necessarily on purpose. I originally had Texas sprinkled in here, but I'm doing my 595 parlay. So this is just picking 3 teams at the minus 110 at their actual spread. I had Missouri minus 7 versus South Carolina, Buffalo minus 6.5 at Kent State, and then Clemson minus 3 at Miami. We've obviously already talked about all 3 of these, but you guys have been hitting your locks. I feel really good about Missouri, and I mean, I swapped out. I had Texas minus 23.5 against Houston instead of Buffalo, but after Matt talking about that game, I got to take that before it moves up to a touchdown. So all 3 of those will get you plus 595. I want to be, my 595 deal. I want to run it back and, get another one of these on the board as a win. So I'll move over to you, Matt. What do you think about that? And then what you got?
Yeah, I like yours. I liked all of our locks this week. So it's if you'd been doing this all year, we wouldn't have been hitting one yet. But you've been getting really close.
I would have pushed last week, probably. Oh no,
Mike lost.
That's true.
I lost last week. Yeah.
I went with the just winners parlay this week, so just money lines. I went with Toledo money line at Miami, Ohio, which is the closest of the 4 games. I think this is like a 2-point spread. Toledo's a favorite, but I think I thought Toledo has been the best team in the MAC so far this year. Miami, Ohio has been really impressive, and they have an impressive win. But I think Toledo's more talented top to bottom on offense and defense, so I think they're going to get the win there. Buffalo money line at Kent State. Already talked about that already. I think Buffalo wins this game comfortably by more than a touchdown. So I think just take the money line there. K-State money line at TCU. I just don't think this TCU team is very good. They haven't covered much this year. I think Kent State should be able to win this easily. And then kind of hate that you have Tennessee as your favorite, as your under or upset rather, because I have Bama money line versus Tennessee. I just think the revenge game arc is going to be too much for them in the end, but I do think it will probably stay within the spread, within a touchdown. So
yeah, I like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, also all four of those will get you plus 354. So triple your money. Triple your money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3.5 times your money. That's, I mean, really pretty good value. Again, the Tennessee game, I just saw that the plus 275 is a massive number for what should be about a touchdown, or probably 6.5 spread, to be honest, is where I think it should be at. But I could also see Bama just, playing bully ball a little bit in Tennessee, like Milton completely overthrowing his receivers and throwing 3 picks. So we'll see. But no, I do like that. Kent State money line just scares me because Kent State scares me a lot, but I don't think they scare me as much as TCU does. So this is just like a little bit of a basement battle in the Big 12. But no, plus 354, pretty good value for what you got. 4 picks of just money line winners. And then Mike, what do you think? And what do you got for your parlay teaser of the week?
I went with straight money lines as well. So I got Rutgers at Indiana. I watched that whole Indiana plus 33.5 game against Michigan. And I was so excited early on. At the end of the first quarter, Indiana's winning 7-0. And then you quickly realize why they were a 33.5 point dog. Rutgers defense is not bad. They scored 21, which their offense is bad. So I was surprised that happened in the fourth quarter against Michigan State, but they're going to beat Indiana. I got Bama money line in mine as well versus Tennessee. We talked about that game. And then lastly, Iowa, Minnesota, that 31.5 point under. I'm not touching the under. I'm taking Iowa money line. I think the spread was only 4 points when I looked. But if it's more than a field goal, I'm not taking it against this Iowa for this Iowa team. So yeah, this game has 17-10 written all over it, or 17-3 or something like that. But Iowa, their defense is for real, and it has shown up in every single game, save the Penn State game. I didn't think that Wisconsin's offense was bad, but Iowa made them look bad. So I'm a believer in this Iowa defense. And special teams. Their punter is fantastic.
It's always a good sign when you're like, oh, they got one of the best punters in the nation. But what's that going to run you, Mike?
That's going to get me. It's going to be just over double your money at plus 201 when I put it in before.
I like all those. I mean, we already talked about the Bama, Tennessee. I do like Rutgers, Indiana. I think I literally texted you like after the first quarter last week, and I was like, it was 7-0 Indiana, and I was like, oh, this looks great. What a bad text to say.
Yeah.
I should have just deleted it and watched it explode away. But no, I was like even flirting with taking just the Iowa. Like when I saw 4.5 though, I was like, I can't touch 4.5 anything over a field goal. But yeah, I oh my goodness, this game is going to be so ugly. But yeah, I was like, I think they're the worst. I think Parker Fleming put up something about them being the absolute worst, offense in the entire FBS, and they're still like 6-1, just atrocious. Like the stats that he was putting up, and it was kind of funny actually. I think like part of my take talked about one of his charts, and I want to give him credit because at Stat Award, Parker Fleming's awesome friend of the transfer portal, but. I mean, their like EPA is like below half the teams that they beat. It's like astonishing that they're like even able to play this stuff off. But yeah, maybe it's their puncher just winning. There's winning field position battles. But yeah, so all right, so those are all picks. So we got all our 5 that we're tracking, and then we got our plus money picks, our upsets and parlay and teaser, and then any additional picks we want to throw out. I'll start. The only pick that I'm going to throw out was the Texas minus 23.5 at Houston. I originally had this in my parlay, and then Matt convinced me to put Buffalo in there, and I wanted to keep my plus 595 because I want that to be my running every single week from now on. But I love Texas minus 23.5 at Houston. Obviously lost to Oklahoma 2 weeks ago, and coming off of a bye week, they do technically have a path. They're still a really good football team, and I mean, I think Houston's just picking them up at the wrong time. I think they're going to just try to run up the score. They're going to completely like maul Houston and run over them. And yeah, their running game's been fantastic. Quinn Ewers needs to be a little bit better. He just did not play well against Oklahoma, and I think a bye week will help him, get his head back on his shoulders. But what else you got? I'll move over to you, Matt, for additional picks, and then Mike, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I like that. Big Texas pretty much has to blow people out for the rest of the year in order to have a chance at the CFP. So I think that's going to be what they're going to try to do. I just couldn't put Iowa -3.5 on my card, but they should win that game. Like, Minnesota will not score hardly any points against this Iowa defense, but man, Iowa might not score more than 3.5 points. It might be a 3-0 game.
It might be a 3-0, yeah.
I don't want to lose a 3.5 bet when it's a 3-0 game. I just can't do that. So it's not on my official card, but I do think they should win by more than 4 points. And then Toledo -2 at Miami, Ohio. I had that money line in my parlay, and I think at -2 that's just kind of a minuscule spread there. I think they're going to win this game, and if they do win, it's probably going to be by a field goal or more. So I like that number.
Yeah, no, I like both of those. Mike, what do you got for a couple additional picks to throw out there?
Yeah, I like all of. I had Texas as well. Houston's defense is not good. They had that miracle win against West Virginia, the 2 different touchdowns in the last 12 seconds. That was crazy. But my other picks that I have is actually I'm going to delete the Texas one that I had on there since you had that. But it's the 2 backyard brawl teams. So Pitt money line versus Wake Forest right now. Pick 'em game with Pitt a slight underdog with a -105. They're feeling good. That's really the only difference on this one. So it's home for Pitt. Narduzzi is a good football coach. Their record is very bad, and they haven't had a bad record since he's been there. So I think they're going to clean up against some of the weaker teams in the ACC, including like Forest. And then the next one, which I didn't feel good enough about to put in my ticket, is West Virginia against Oklahoma State. So it's at West Virginia, which makes me feel really good. I think the last line I saw was -3. West Virginia obviously lost a heartbreaker. Houston, they're a different football team at home. Their defense anyway, especially at home. But Oklahoma State, man, they started the year really, really bad, but Mike Van Gundy, he wins 7 or 8 games every year. I don't know how he does it. I don't know what he does, but he wins 7 or 8 games every year. I put a future in for them for over 6 wins.
I did that this summer.
Yeah,
over 6.5.
But I was looking at their schedule, the remaining. I was like, I don't know where these wins are going to come from. And then the upsets come. So that's the only reason that didn't make it into my card.
Yeah, I literally had the same future because I was looking back at all my I had a couple of futures I sprinkled out there. I didn't have any Heisman futures, which I was really sad about, but yeah, no, literally had over 6.5 wins. And I remember talking about this on the Big 12 podcast that we did for the season preview. And I was like, yeah, Mike Gundy, just when you count him out, like, I mean, the guy's going to be on the hot seat if he doesn't win, 7 games. And then the beginning of the season, they were a train wreck. And somehow they're still, like the Undertaker, like hand coming out of the ground. I do love that every single week you got to talk about the backyard brawl teams too. It's that and the teams that are not a good football team. It's just every week we got to make sure we cover it. But all right. But yeah, so those are our picks. We'll be putting out our sheet probably Friday, or we'll put out the podcast Friday, and then when you're listening to this, our sheet's going to be coming out during game day, so Saturday morning. So look out for all of our picks. And thank you again for joining us for week 8 of the Transfer Portal CFP Gambling Podcast, brought to you by No Context CFP. And we'll see you again next week for week 9.